Transforming our bodies for more energy, focus, and presence is simple. Just eat right, sleep well, and exercise. However, taking those actions on a consistent basis is obviously a lot easier said than done. I want to talk about how to more reliably make that shift to a more vibrant state of being. What's up guys, Bevan here, coming to you from San Francisco, and the solution I want to talk about in my video today might seem a little bit strange. I'm not promoting a diet or an exercise routine, and this is not a quick fix, and it's never going to be a popular solution. That being said, if you put this into practice, you will change your body and your mind. The solution is to read about health every single day. Create a process of reading about nutrition, sleep, and exercise until your thoughts and focus align with your goal. When you redirect your mind, your behavior will follow suit. Now, I realize that sounds boring as hell, or maybe it sounds like an obvious recommendation. But before you shut off the video, let me explain why it works, because the reasons why this has such a drastic effect on behavior are not obvious, and you might be able to use these principles in other areas of your life as well. Now, I'll talk about 4 reasons why this is effective, and the first 2 are kind of obvious, so just bear with me. First of all, reading gives us knowledge. Clearly, a lot of people are misinformed about health. And guess what? We probably are too. I certainly was, and probably still am to some extent. Health is nuanced and ever-changing, and making reading a habit will keep us informed. Reading about health also motivates us because the books we read constantly remind us of the benefits of change and the costs of the status quo. Reading provides ongoing emotional leverage. More importantly, reading about health keeps the topic front of mind and directs the focus of our subconscious. It's like having a nutrition coach in our brain. If we've been reading about coconut oil, guess what's going to catch our attention at the supermarket? Reading directs our focus automatically. However, even our new constant focus on health isn't always enough to overpower our bad habits. What we need is investment. The real value in sitting down with a book is in investing time and effort with those ideas. Investment towards our goals will increase the odds that we'll follow through. I love watching book summaries on YouTube, and every now and then I'll read an article online. But a surface level exposure to ideas doesn't usually require enough investment of us to generate any action on our part. For example, if we read one article about why sugar is bad for us, even if we trust the source of that article, it's probably not going to affect our behavior. But if we read a few books on that subject, we're going to be a lot more invested in the idea of not eating sugar, and we'll be a lot less likely to eat it. We internalize hard-won lessons, whether we're reading a difficult health book, or paying for a tennis coach, or making a mistake in a relationship. If the lesson has cost us in a meaningful way, we'll take it to heart. So embrace the rigor of reading. Start easy if reading is not already a habit for you, but remember that effortful investment instills new behaviors. I want to give you another perspective on why reading a lot on a particular subject will reliably change our behavior. And this is the greater lesson I want to share with you today. One of the characteristics of habits is that they're strongly tied to context. When we hear the dinner time bell, for example, we're going to start salivating. Our habits are very strongly tied to our physical environment. Well, our context isn't just our physical environment, it's also our thoughts. And obviously our thoughts trigger our behavior as well. To change our deepest habits, we also have to change our internal environment. Now, it might seem strange to think of our thoughts as being part of our environment, because most of the time we're identified with those thoughts. We are that voice in our heads. Well, that's actually an illusion. And when we start to meditate, we can learn to watch those thoughts almost like we'd watch this video. We can think of our minds as machines that spit thoughts onto the canvas of our awareness. We can seem to control our thoughts when we want to, but most of the time they're being generated without our conscious action. The key is that we can largely change the nature of these thoughts that arise in different circumstances. Also, our minds automatically focus on certain things. Some of those focal points are hardwired, for example, obvious threats in our environment, and others are learned, for example, when we read a lot on a certain topic. And just like we can nudge our automatic thoughts in a certain direction, so too can we change where our focus is automatically directed. And we do this by reading. When we read a book, we're thinking a series of refined thoughts. The more we run these mental programs, the more our thoughts and focus will align with them. And our new thoughts will generate new behaviors. For example, at the supermarket, instead of asking what looks good or what do I normally buy, we'll start asking what is the most nutritious thing to buy. and that thought will percolate up on its own because of everything that we're hammering into our minds. And that's why we should really mind our influences, because the media we consume will affect our thoughts, our focus, and ultimately our actions. So let's view our thoughts and focus as mutable aspects of our environment, just like the color of the walls in our home or the sounds coming out of the stereo. We can change this mental context by creating the process of reading daily in the subject of interest, in this case, health. Now, I haven't actually talked about implementing what we learn. We obviously have to do that vigorously as well. But getting our thoughts in line and aligning our focus is often the more difficult challenge, and is the critical piece that a lot of people are lacking. We have to rewire our minds first. Now, I'll leave you with some practical tips for reprogramming your brain for better health. And the first step is to start easy, especially if you don't have the habit of reading going already. Don't necessarily go straight to the most difficult books, and just focus on reading for maybe 5 or 10 or 15 minutes per day, just to get your momentum up and get in the habit of reading every day. And the second point is to focus on quality. Whenever you're considering a book to read, ask yourself if it's really one of the highest quality books in that subgenre of health. If it's not, find one that is. And the third point is humility. And this is probably the biggest challenge for a lot of people, myself included, because we have to really examine our convictions. We have to examine our strongly held beliefs about health. And people get really emotional about this. It's kind of like politics in that respect. So just identify your convictions and try to actually disprove them. And related to this is confirmation bias. So just be aware of this tendency that we all have, this very strong tendency to seek out information that already confirms our existing beliefs. And related to that is the importance of reading widely. We have to deliberately read in different areas of health to make sure that we're not just reading in one area, and we'll gain a lot of information from doing that. And somebody asked about book recommendations. And the thing is, when you read like this, it doesn't really matter where you start, because you're going to be reading a lot, you're going to be reading widely, and you're going to be focusing on quality. So you're going to be covering a lot of good ground. It doesn't really matter where you start. That being said, if you do want a place to start, one of my favorite books is The Perfect Health Diet by Drs. Paul and Shu-Ching Jaminit. It's just very well researched and a very rigorous read. That's all I've got for now. I really hope you take this idea to heart. Maybe you want to watch this video a few more times to invest more in this idea. But in any case, thank you for watching. Also remember that you can apply this technique to any goal that you might have, whether it's health or meditation or whatever it is. So go to Amazon, pick out a few books, commit to reading them, and commit to creating this process of reading regularly in these subjects. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoy this, and also share this with people who you think might be interested. Talk to you next time.